Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to assemble a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world, one character at a time. And it all starts with one thing, a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. To gain that understanding, I am mining the intersection of psychology, theology, and philosophy to make you a better writer. This is episode number 50, Naming Your Character Traits, the Empathy Traits, Part 2. We have been on an adventure that began with writing our stories on file cards, 4x6 file cards, where we collected a whole number of stories based on different levels of awareness, and then we said we would name the traits later on. So we went through and we visited 3 of the different groups completely. We visited all the character traits under resilience, where our character is battling the external physical world. We covered all the character traits under balance, where the theme was managing and assessing oneself. We covered all the character traits under insight, where the job was to observe and assess the world and the circumstances and apply wisdom. And we've begun to look at the enormous empathy group, which is around navigating relationships. And we said the empathy group is that big because so much of human life is involved with relationships, especially when man was living in a tribal society primarily. If you were excluded from the tribe, it would be very difficult for you to remain alive even. So it's extremely important to understand relationships. And it seems that these days, relationships are coming back to the fore as needing some attention. So it might be a very profitable thing to dive more deeply into empathy. So let's take a look at the subgroups within empathy. In our first visit in the empathy group, we looked at the dependability subgroup. And we said that the dependability subgroup had to do with, can our character be counted on to come through when the chips are down? And we broke it into several different individual character traits of loyalty, responsibility, sincerity, and trustworthiness. Well, tonight we're looking at the next group, which is the sociability group. How pleasant is this character to be around? And we're going to take a look at 4 character traits that come under sociability. The first one is affability. Affability simply has to do with how friendly and approachable is our character. We will say that if the character is just basically cheerful and nice, then they will have a high score in affability, and people will find them easy to relate to. The next one down is courtesy. And courtesy has to do with being civil and polite towards everyone, just based on the fact that they're a human being. That alone is sufficient to make it appropriate for us to extend courtesy to every living human being. The next one down, kindness, is much more pointed and much more personally connected. Kindness has to do with being aware of other people, usually of a specific person in a specific situation, and having care and concern for that situation. One of the things that we say separates courtesy and kindness, courtesy is basically costless. You put a nice smile on your face, you hold the door for someone, the cost is very, very low. Kindness takes a little more effort. Maybe you reach out and give some help. And so it's also more pointed. Likewise, when you look at the opposite trait to kindness, that is cruelty. And cruelty is also very pointed and very individual. whereas discourtesy could simply mean you're just going through life in a blur. You walk through the door and you let the door go. Who cares who's behind you? You didn't even notice. You weren't directed at an individual, whereas cruelty is very pointed and very direct. Affability likewise has an opposite, just being either so stern that no one feels they can approach you, or so sour in disposition that no one would want to. And then we have one more in this group, which is a little bit more subtle than the others. We're going to call this one respect. Respect has to do with the honor that is due to a person by virtue of his status. We said courtesy, we don't care about status. Everyone deserves courtesy. Respect, on the other hand, has to do with a special status of a person. Typically in this area we might think of the mayor, the president, the governor, a doctor perhaps, a professor, anyone who is in a status role higher than yours that you will give, that you have an interaction with, then that person will be due respect. So those are our subgroups so far that we've broken down. You can see there's two more left in the empathy group. The response, where we react to and return something for the good things that have come into our lives. Also, that involves awareness of them. And then the honor subgroup, which is when you're in an asymmetrical relationship, and it's a little bit, well, we won't go into it tonight because we'll be diving into it because it's an interesting one and needs to be teased apart. So we will save that for another night. But tomorrow, because we did the work of breaking down a group today, we'll play a game tomorrow with another scenario. So I hope you have enjoyed this evening's program, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.